So what this play is essentially a farce, and I'm sure you all know what a farce is. Shakespeare had already written The Comedy of Errors 3 years before, which is also a kind of farce. So it means, as it says here, a comic dramatic work using buffoonery and horseplay, typically including crude characterization and ludicrously improbable situations. Yes, that just about fits it. It is kind of lots of silly situations. The word farce actually comes from the Latin, meaning to stuff something. And it originally meant stuffing between religious plays comedy. And so we have the next question, what's the connection with Kyogen? Kyogen, exactly that, comic stuffing between no plays. So there's a very strong medieval connection between the two theatrical worlds. And in fact, not so long ago, Takahashi Yasunari, professor of Todai, he actually wrote a Kyogen based on this play, Falstaff, which he called the Braggart Samurai. And if you're interested, it actually appears in this Shakespeare and the Japanese Stage book. He wrote his English version of it as well. And the Mansai family produced that. So, the next question, where does cuckold come from? The word cuckold. Cuckold means a man whose wife has a relationship with another man. So a cuckold comes from a bird which is the cuckoo. The cuckoo lays his eggs in other birds' nests, and so the problem is, the connection is, if you have been cuckooed, it means you may be bringing up children who are not your children. And the traditional symbol of that is horns. This is number 10. Why do horns feature strongly? And why does Ford keep saying buck? Now the word buck is very strong in this play. Buck, of course, is a male deer. It still is. And male deer get very excited when they are mating in the mating season. They fight with their horns, and of course the loser, is pushed out, very sadly. And so there's this image of the horns. So they keep talking about buck, but also buck was used for washing, which dirty washing. And there's a buck basket features in the play. The buck basket means a huge basket into which you threw your dirty clothes. Now the Elizabethans were very, very dirty. They didn't wash much, they didn't have showers, and later even King James thought they were dangerous to have a bath. It was absolutely horrible, I imagine. But eventually they decided this linen or this bedclothes, oh my God, we should bleach it. So they sent it off to specialist women who were bleachers, and they put it in this huge basket. And that is what a buck basket is. And buck also has a strong sexual meaning, which I won't go into. And I have to say, this whole play is full of sexual jokes. Fortunately, many people don't know them now because they're Elizabethan words, but it is actually a pretty dirty play if you know all the kotoba asobi. Okay, next one. What do these names have in common? You probably have no idea. Anybody guess what these names are? These are names of bears, because the other big entertainment in Elizabethan London was bear baiting. And you had a bear, and sometimes 1,000 people gambling, and the bear would be tied up and attacked by dogs. The dogs were bulldogs or mastiffs, big ones, and they would attack the bear. Pretty horrible, bloody sport. Very, very popular. Queen Elizabeth loved it. She arranged bear baiting wherever she travelled. Some of the dogs, and particularly the bears, became very famous because the idea was that the bear didn't die. This is not bullfighting. The bear was a precious thing. Many of them were imported. So the fight had to go on a certain time. Often the dogs died, but not the bear. And these bears were particularly famous in Shakespeare's time. And one of them, Old Nell of Middlewick, actually appeared at many pubs. they took her to inns. She was a very nice bear, and you could sit there and drink your ale and smile at the bear. Okay, number 12, why is a Welshman included? Why is he called Mountain Foreigner? Welshman, well, there's a good reason for this. When Shakespeare was at school, he had a Welsh teacher. That is one reason. In 1597, Robert Armin joined the group as a comedian, and he was specialised in playing funny Welshmen. This is one reason that people think this play was not written in 1597, because Armin came in 1599, and probably written for him the same as Llewellyn in Henry V. Funny Welshman with a funny Welsh accent. So we have these words. For example, he says "ferry," which of course means very good, which means good. Better, brain, and prince. Of course, it's B. Better, brain, prince. Lots of fake Welsh pronunciation. And so number 13, why is a Latin grammar scene included? There's a Latin, part of a Latin lesson. This is very interesting because when he was 6 or 7 or 8, Shakespeare studied Latin from a grammar. All children did at grammar school, Latin grammar. And it's a little parody of a Latin lesson taken exactly from his textbook. We know his textbook because Edward VI fixed the Latin textbook for everybody. And it's a little parody scene. Mistress Quickly doesn't understand at all what's going on, and because of the bad pronunciation, she hears all the sexual wordplay in the Latin. So if you know Latin and you know Elizabethan meanings of different words, it's a very, very funny scene. So I think that would have been hilarious to the Elizabethan crowd. Why is there a French doctor? There's a French doctor probably because, of course, the English like making a little bit of fun of the French. Let's have some French pronunciation. English people understood French very well, and he is very funny because he speaks with the French, English with the French way, gets lots of words wrong, and even bursts into French sometimes. And that's because there were many French doctors at the English court. French doctors had a good reputation, and many of them would visit Windsor. So this is actually very realistic. And of course he's a choice of Mrs. Page as a husband for her daughter because quite wealthy and good connections at court. And his words we have there, dat of course means that, gar is God, challenge is challenge, third is third. French have difficulty with th. And do intend what I speak? Intend means do you understand? Do you know what I am saying? And that of course is directly from the French word entendre. So if you study French, you probably find a few jokes here as well. Mrs. Quickly, number 15, these malapropisms getting the wrong words. She's famous for that, even in Henry IV. So she says elegant, which means elegant, alicoly instead of melancholy, confidence. I can't remember what confidence. Yes, confidence means conference, which means conversation. She says the next time I have confidence. Erection means direction. Frampole means kind of noisy, overbearing. She talks about the husband. Fartuous means virtuous, and infection to is affection for. So it's a lot of fun trying to work out what she's saying. Number 16, what the deuce do oysters, Dickens, and the word frugal have to do with the play? Oysters is, of course, a very famous line from Pistol, where he said, "From now the world is my oyster," which is still used today. What he really means is he's going to, cut open anything to get money, rob people. But he means anyway, the idea is open. I don't have any money now, so I can do what I like. And Dickens, the phrase "what the Dickens," appears for the first time in this play. And of course, what the Dickens maybe comes from the name Dick, Richard, possibly, or it may mean God. It's the same as what the deuce. What the deuce actually means God. So it's one of those phrases. It appears for the first time here, and the word frugal also appears for the first time. First recorded use in English of the word frugal. Why are you Banbury cheese? Question 17. Banbury cheese was famous just north of Oxford. It's a very creamy, oishy cheese, which is very, very thin. It's only about 1 inch thick. It's famous for being thin. And Banbury was a very Puritan place. So, you know, regarded as rather kind of simple, mean, frugal. So, Slender, who is very slender, is accused of being thin as a Banbury cheese. What did Shakespeare mean by Guyana? This was the period of exploration of the world. As you know, the Spanish were finding lots of wonderful gold and silver and goodness knows what in the West Indies. And Queen Elizabeth suggested that maybe you know, a few of their ships should be plundered. The British could become pirates, steal a lot of this stuff. And that was the idea. So going out into the world to get riches. So the imagery very much is Falstaff seeing these two women as, oh, these are my West Indies. These are rich women. I can get their gold. I can plunder them in my ship. I can sail in. Those images are lots and lots of images in the play. And number 19, what do these men have in common? Salieri, Nicolai Verdi, and Ralph Vaughan Williams, they all produced operas based on this play. Lots and lots of operas. And number 20, a very silly question maybe, do cows like the play? Why do I say this? I thought this was an April Fool's joke, but it wasn't. In July 2010, the Daily Telegraph in England reported that a theatre group had been rehearsing Merry Wives of Windsor at a farm in Kent, in England. And as a result of the cows listening to the actors perform bits of Merry Wives of Windsor, they produced 4% more milk. This is a very interesting thing. Previously, people had thought classical music was good for producing more milk, and these actors tried Shakespeare, and the same thing worked. And the actors afterwards said, this is great, you know, great for us, and great for the cows, but we're not sure whether Hamlet or Macbeth would please them so much. So maybe this play has some kind of soothing quality. Okay, I think that's about it. I think we're running out of time. Just quickly about the BBC production. 1982. The set is Falstaff's house is based on actual Mary Arden's house in Stratford-upon-Avon, or Wilmcote near Stratford, and his daughter's house. The director wanted to film in Stratford-upon-Avon, but it was too difficult. So it's a very beautiful set. The house interiors are great, and in the background they have Windsor, which is kind of plasticine models of Windsor. Just some of the actors. Paige is played by Brian Marshall, who had many, you may not know, but had many different appearances. Prunella Scales is Mistress Paige. She was Sybil in Fawlty Towers. Probably many of you know Fawlty Towers comedy series. And she's married to Timothy West, who played Cardinal Wolsey in Henry VIII, we saw last time. Miranda Foster, she's performed with Anthony Hopkins' Lear. Frank Ford, Sir Ben Kingsley, the famous Kingsley. At this time, he was being nominated for an Oscar for Gandhi, when this was made. He played Ford at Stratford, 1979 to 80. I actually saw him play this Ford on stage, and he reproduced it in the BBC. He does it a little bit stagey, but very funny. Alice Ford is Judy Davis, who was Adela in the film Passage to India, which you may have seen. Sir John Falstaff, Richard Griffiths, most of you will know him. He was Hector in the History Boys movie, and Vernon Dursley in Harry Potter movies. Harry's nasty uncle. Gordon Costello, who was actually a New Zealander, he was very famous for being Bardolph. He's in the other BBC programs. Robert Shadow, played by Alan Bennett, also very famous in Britain, famous actor, comedian and writer and critic. He wrote The Madness of George III and also the history books. And in this production he's hidden under a huge beard. Actually in the Elizabethan days they all wore beards, so it's okay. Tenniel Evans, he was actually a distant relation of Lewis Carroll's illustrator. He plays the Welshman. Michael Bryant is the French physician. He actually came to Japan as Prospero many years ago, you may have seen. Elizabeth Spriggs, who I saw many times playing Mistress Quickly in Stratford. You will probably know her because she was the fat lady in the Harry Potter movies. Oh. In the frame, you know. Yeah, that was her. Very funny actress. And Master Fenton, who has appeared in a lot of British TV stuff and movies. So that's about it, I think. I don't think we have much time. You just might be interested to look yourselves at this little speech by Falstaff. I just demonstrated how many, the wordplay, the kotaba sobi in one speech. So in brackets, what they mean. And sometimes, like the word will, has at least 5 different meanings here, in one word, which is pretty clever. So of course, it's a translator's nightmare. Impossible to translate. But in the context, Shakespeare's audience would have appreciated that. And so even when Pistol responds to this and says, oh, he's talking about the woman. She's saying she's ready for me. And Pistol says, oh, he has studied her well. Whether it's well or will depends on the actor's pronunciation. But anyway, it's a kind of joke. And the play is full of lines like that, so don't worry if you don't get everything. Please enjoy it, and I hope that this has been a little bit useful for following it. I think that's, sorry I've talked too much as usual, but thank you very much. And I can, just one thing before I forget. Can I just say that, remember this is a comedy, and it's very difficult for these actors to perform comedy in a TV set. There is no audience. Extremely difficult for them. If you would like to see an actual interactive version, the DVD of The London Globe, this is only a few years ago, recently, is very interesting because this is it's filmed live with an audience. And so you can see the effect these lines have on audience members even today. So if you're really interested, you might like to check that out and think about these actors doing their best to be funny with no audience. Sorry to go on too long, Jeff.
Not at all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we need maybe a 5 minutes break before we actually start the program. So